Hello and welcome to a new episode of Them Frames That Make Us. I'm Dan Jin, and in this one I'm joined by Todd Coleman. Todd is a director, a photographer, a writer, a social media guru. He's a man of many creative traits and he does them all to a very high standard. I absolutely loved this conversation and listening to the stories behind some of the images that he's made. He also shares one at the end which gives us more of a peek into his day-to-day life and what he's doing creatively. If you do like the podcast, please do hit a like, do subscribe and tap that bell icon so YouTube notifies you when I next publish. Let's get into it. This is Them Frames That Make Us with Todd Coleman. Hello, Todd. Thanks for joining me.
Hello.
I say this on every episode, like, you know, you and I have been speaking for about 20 minutes now, and then we have to pretend at the start of this conversation, like, oh, hi, Todd. Hey, there you are. It's like, yeah, we know each other.
We're already friends.
We're already friends. Yeah, we've established. That would be awkward if we'd established in those 20 minutes that we weren't friends. That would have been awkward. But thankfully, we've got quite a lot in common, so that's good.
Yes.
Okay. So you are here to share 3 images with us today. We've got a professional image, a personal one, and then we're going to end the episode with an image that no one has ever seen before. So to get things started, I'm going to look at this professional image, which I'll get onto why I love it. But at first, yeah, if you just want to share where you were when you took this and why you've selected this particular shot as an image that means something to you.
I mean, this image, when you asked me to, like I said earlier, like when you asked me about, I love how you've divided it up. You've given some structure, so then I have to, but I when it comes to professional, it's a weird and hard question, and I'll have more to say about that later, I think. But this is professional in that I was in Japan photographing a Japanese cookbook. I was in Tokyo with a chef who's originally from a particular neighborhood in Tokyo, and so we were spending a lot of time there. At the time, I was working for a magazine that was kind of known as the National Geographic of food magazines, and that's where I started to shoot. And then the Harris, one of the co-authors, he had done a few cookbooks, and he wanted me to come because he was using sort of local photographers who kind of were maybe a little more polite. Like he saw a scene, or usually relating to cooking, but they were a little bit more reserved, pulled back. They didn't want to get in there and be rude. And I think, a lot of people think Americans are rude and outgoing. But if that's true, that's probably true. And I, definitely have that in me. So I'm more drawn to subjects and sort of, go by the ethos of, you don't ask for permission, you apologize later, and we're out in public. And, we're basically shooting kind of like street stalls, nightlife, people out eating. And then I see these 3. And at that time I was shooting with a Canon 5D Mark II or 3. And this shot is kind of like a low-res JPEG straight out of the camera. There's no processing in this. And the reason why I gave you this one is I can't find the processed one. I didn't, if I had some more, I know where the raw files are, but it's interesting is because this image ended up going in my friend's restaurant. At the same time, he was opening a Japanese restaurant, one of the writers, the main writer, Harris, and it went up on the wall, and it's professional in many ways. Like it was a professional job for the cookbook. I was at the magazine still. We were just away for a week. So some of the stuff that I worked on also went into the magazine, and then also went on this wall. And then I used to have a website. I don't have a website anymore where people could, and then I didn't turn off the order prints part in Zenfolio. And so I only discovered later that people were ordering prints for like no money, like $2 or something. And everyone was ordering this one photo because they were at the restaurant, and then they would go to my site and hey, I can order a print. So I think probably quite a lot of more people have this, like that they gave as a gift or something that I didn't even realize it was happening. But anyway, it is a I think it was 2012 this was shot. It does have a very Japanese Yakuza gangster feel. I think that they probably were that. When I look at their clothes, it's like it kind of seems like maybe it could have been taken in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And and certainly anyone who's a photographer or a movie lover always responds to this image. And again, it's like unprocessed. There's some kind of weird aberration on her arm I noticed yesterday, and but like it's such an intense, interesting scene. They're really
Yeah.
caught squares. I think I was walking around with a 35 millimeter lens. I just moved in, took the shot. There's only 2 frames. The second frame is him going like this, like no more.
The guy in the middle.
Yeah,
Because he looks like the one that if you need to be handled, he would make the call. But
yeah,
what I do love about this image is you are right. Obviously, the two either side of the gentleman in the middle, that it's got that kind of like that candid street style, obviously. But I just love how the guy in the middle, it's almost as if he was like ready to be posed. You know, it's like he's kind of connected with your camera without even realizing it clearly if he's doing this afterwards. But I like how there's a balance between the either side. There's like a guy drinking, a woman smoking, and him looking as sharp as humanly possible. That's what I love about it.
So I actually at that point I love street photography. I guess I consider myself a street photographer, but at in this moment I was not a street photographer. I was
Hmm.
we'll get to that later. It's not mainly what I was shooting.
Hmm.
So um although I had it in me and I wanted to do that, I hadn't found my way to it yet. And so
Okay.
with this and again, because it's professional in so many ways, like truly professional. Like, are you being paid? Am I considered a professional photographer? At that
Hmm.
point, maybe had started shooting in 2009. In this year, I shot quite a lot, quite a lot. It was a sort of banner year for that. But this image is, it's resonated with people too. I mean, like the fact that people wanted it, that it was in this restaurant that was really popular, people were seeing it. I remember sometimes in the early days of Instagram, people would actually not at that when it went up. At some point, it was still on the wall when stories appeared. A lot of people would put it in stories, sometimes tag me because they'd ask who it was. And
Yeah.
so, it has a life. It had a life of its own. And I can see why. And I think that trip, I think we're both very interested in. I'm very interested in like things that are disappearing, the way that people dress, or with different cultures and whatnot. And on this
Yeah.
trip, sort of magical, and then there was another scene where it was on the streets of Tokyo. There was an old man with an old wooden ramen cart serving people like at 3 in the morning. And my friend Tadashi, who's from there, was like, "I'm so shocked to see this. This doesn't exist anymore." And we didn't see it again. And my other trips to Japan, I've never seen. I've never seen it again. And then this scene, and it's almost like they're ghosts. Both of these scenarios, like I didn't see anything else like it. I mean, Japan has a deep love for vintage clothing and things like that, but these guys are not vintage clothing aficionados.
Okay.
And I've searched looking for tattoos if they're poking out, or anyone who's even Japanese is like, absolutely, these guys. I mean, they're intense. This is
Yeah.
not the Japan of like, Hello Kitty, or this is these guys were serious.
Okay. So let's have a look at this personal image of these two very cool elderly women with a wonderful backdrop. It's got that. It's an excellent image. I'll let you tell us where this was shot and what it means to you when you look at it.
Yeah, so this is personal, I guess, because it means a lot to me. This is like on my Instagram, Instagram has meant a lot to me in so many ways over the years. Um, it's been central to my life, central to my existence since probably since like January 2015. And this isn't so I started to in 2015. Um, my work had changed and I wanted to continue the shoot. So I started shooting on my iPhone. And I was, getting into mobile, the mobile photography movement, which was felt and maybe was sort of at its tail end. Um, I was inspired by a lot of photographers, especially Eric Mencher, who had been he's from Philadelphia. Oh, he'd been a newspaper photographer who is really into shooting with his phone, still is. And I sort of gave me permission to do that. I think I read an interview with him where he was like, every time he was shooting, he was like, "Why am I doing this? What with a phone? Why am I not using my actual cameras?" And so I really fell in love with it, and I would travel to shoot with my phone and nothing else. And so looking at this, you look at this image, it's like with a quite a old iPhone now, and it's kind of over processed. It doesn't have a lot of integrity as an image, but it's a very soulful image, and
Oh yeah.
it's my by far my most the most favorite image that I mean, I got the most response out of it. Like, so like when I talk about the one we looked at in Japan, it was, it had an audience like hanging on a wall of a restaurant, or I think it was in a cookbook. It ended up in the book, so it had its own type of audience. But this was something where Instagram, I was getting direct feedback. I posted it and it just sort of went bananas in that moment. Um, and so I was in Oaxaca.
Huh.
uh, I had in my some from my professional sort of journalism days had a friend down there named Susanna, who has a cooking school called Seasons of My Heart. Unfortunately, she's recently passed away.
Oh,
But
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, so yes, she was an incredible person, a very soulful person. And so I think her mother was from Mexico and her father, born in Philly, but ended up in Oaxaca, and that's where she sort of made her life. Just two incredible sons down there and all that. So I had what I try to do with my daughter is when it's time for us to go on vacation together, whether she's school or not, I take her somewhere outside of the country, and so I decided, oh, let's go visit Susanna and go to Oaxaca. And then on one of the days, this is following sort of these street photography. It's not a street photo, but street photography precepts where you go to a place. You first of all have to be there, right? The photo can't
Yeah.
exist out there, and you're inspired, but you have to be there in the moment, right? And basically that means like you can't be sitting on the couch, right? These things just don't come to you. You have to put in a lot of effort to get somewhere, go somewhere, walking New York City, whatever it is, right? That idea of walking around. So I was walking around in this town village, um, and then ended up in front of someone's house, and I was with somebody who spoke Spanish, I think, and the people were standing outside, and it was extremely residential. There was, like they were asking me what I was doing there, and through the person I was with. And then they invited us inside, or maybe I asked if we could see inside, or we just ended up inside. And these are two sisters. And then I started ph photographing with my phone, and then I think one of them was sitting there and moved them there. But anyway, it was like it's so when you traveling, one of the best things to do actually is to be able to go into someone's home to eat, you know,
Yeah.
or to see how other people are living. I mean, it's such a gift. It feels so amazing, and being able to photograph or have so the photography was the reason why and my daughter was the reason why the trip happened. Photography gives me a reason to walk around, to continue to explore. Like I'm not a beach person. I'm not doing anything like that. So I'm like, uh, I don't want to. I'm not there to relax. I feel like maybe I'm missing out. But this image it just started to come together. Um, I love that Magnum book of like contact sheets where it shows the photo they picked, you
Yeah.
know, but you can see how it got there and what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
Uh, and that I haven't looked back at that. It's in my photo roll or in the cloud or whatever, but like it really resonated. And then, was I paying attention to every part? Like I was moving them over to like a door for the natural light because I was shooting with this, with the phone. I was no, and which were, there's so much better in low light than they were like. I just wouldn't even shoot because there was nothing you could do. So I moved them and they on the bench. I think you might have moved some things around, but it really resonated with people. And then I had to kind of ask why. I mean, I liked the image. I think it's the
Yeah.
first posted when I got back home. But she's wearing the sunglasses. I think people think have said that she looks really cool. A lot of people have said, like, to their friends, women have said, "Oh, this is us when we're older." I mean, and I'm like, "Oh, like people see themselves in there and the image." Like it really provoked. It brought something out in people all over the world. It's amazing. The truth and then she's in that moment, the other woman, her sister, is sort of moving her hands, she was upset, and then a lot of people responded to the photo of I mean, not the photo, the photo of the Last Supper, the painting, the illustration supper at the top, which
Yeah.
I definitely was framing that in, but I don't think in the moment I noticed that was the Last Supper. So it's a very powerful image and the way the woman is really kind of hunched over, really almost facing me with her sunglasses on. But in reality, I don't know. It was personal because it was not at the very beginning of my iPhone street photography travel where I was like separated it out from my professional work. That's the way it's
Mhm.
personal. It was work for myself, work to continue doing the work to still become a better photographer or push myself or still travel and do all these things that I love doing. Like continue the journey of, that people say that, but it's like, yeah. And so, but the reality is she is blind, she's
Right.
blind in the sunglasses. She is cool, but the reason why the sunglasses are because she's blind. And it's a special image. I have gone back there because it was shot on the phone. I was able to see where it was shot, sort of. And I went back maybe a couple of years ago. And the sister was not blind, she has since passed away. They're quite old in that photo. Uh, but interestingly, when I came back and we showed him the photo, we're talking to them again in Spanish, like someone was with me. I'm actually had a friend who spoke Spanish fluently. I went back and found them. We're showing the image. We found out she had passed away. The blind woman was there, but the family was, the family is a lot of the families living there in different areas nearby. They were very happy to see me. They did not remember me, and showed them the photo, and they really didn't care. They didn't really care or wonder or they were forget what kind of work they were doing but but it was like you'd also like anticlimactic. It was like we go back, I'm going to revisit them, and that was not a memory.
No, it's a great shot, and I think for anyone who and I want to applaud you for this because it's not easy. Like if you're on a set where people understand they're going to be photographed and there's a job and you're doing it, but when you're in this kind of environment and like you say, initially they were not in a good spot, so you had to move them around, and you have to be kind of mindful, like I'm moving around these elderly ladies. They're probably kind of a little bit not understanding exactly what's going on, even though you've got a translator there, and there's a lot of things you have to think about when getting a shot like this in a very small space of time. And this is to me like what I would call like a jackpot shot. Like the subjects are incredible, the lighting is wonderful, you've got the backdrop which just gives it that kind of real rustic feel, and it's like all the elements have come together at once, and your brain has to, even if it's not consciously thinking of all the things I've just said, your brain will be doing that in a very fast-paced way. And then this is what happens. So all this to say that this isn't an easy shot to make, and you've done it incredibly well.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. I mean, as I'm thinking about it, because I didn't think through any of this when purposefully, so
Mm.
I could ruminate while we are talking and remember certain. But yeah, I mean, that comes from a lot of people when I was first, I mean, then the next image, well, I can talk more about that. But I was around a lot of I've been around a lot of visual people in my life, professional, people who do photographers, artists, and picked up a lot. They taught me a lot. And then when I got into it, when I was producing photo shoots, I had I learned from a lot of people, right? So, it took, yeah, like that wall is incredible. The color of the wall is incredible. The two women are incredible. I don't know, I think we maybe moved a bench against the wall, maybe moved a kitchen table, but in that, to tell you the truth, like the people, like one of their daughters, I think they were like very happy. Like I was happy to be there. They were happy to have me, you know.
Mhm.
And it was a nice little moment. We weren't there that long, but it was kind of like when I used to have company, my parents used to have company. Now, I mean, I live in a New York apartment. People don't really come over to each other's apartments. Like no one comes to visit me at my apartment. But if someone would come in and have a coffee, like my mom, when growing up, my mom used to have friends come over, this thing does not exist in my life, but this was they were enjoying themselves. They were
Mhm.
very. Yeah, I was there. It was some company, some connection. I
Yeah.
might have coffee or something in that moment too, or they might have offered me some food. Yeah, that was around. But it was a great moment, and we moved some things around. We weren't that disruptive, but we made the shot. Yes, they weren't just sitting there. I don't think so. And we made it happen, but it wasn't too bad. And the shot was very quick.
Yeah.
Again, 'cause I took a lot of shots, but you can't be there forever because you're in someone's home. You do want to get out of there. But I'm just glowing inside because I felt this connect. That's why it's part of why it's personal. I felt this connection to them, and it was, yeah. What you're talking about is you have to make the photograph. Part of the way you have to be there in that moment. I had to decide to walk down that. I think we went to this town to go to a market, and then I just started walking down this hill and just kept walking. You know, it's just completely, it's by chance, but you're making decisions like a choose your own adventure book. Am I taking a right or a left? And then you also, you are traveling, you are away. So maybe on the streets here in New York, I'm not going to stop and just talk to someone outside of their door or somewhere. But we did. Maybe they even asked what we were doing, walking around. But yeah, the whole thing is assembled from so many decisions.
Yeah.
And the output of it, once I posted it, how it really did affect people. And that's, I can put up an image that how many times you probably have gotten this too. Oh, you really love this image. Like maybe you love the moment or the time, but no, it doesn't really resonate with anybody.
Okay, so we've got one more, and this is a never seen before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we're kind of blending two passions here for you, photography and food. So this seems to be a BTS image of you doing your thing. So yeah, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, this is, I kind of maybe in talking let the cat out of the bag a little bit, but I would say the never seen, like on my Instagram, uh, which I guess is how we know each other, and it's kind of the only place I put the work that, street photography or travel photography or photography that's not food. I specifically didn't put food because food business in some way or form has been my entire life. I started washing dishes when I was 15. I fell in love with it. I started asking if I could help cooking, peeling garlic, things like that. Eventually went to culinary school, was cooking in restaurants, and And then I basically at this point of it, every job that you can think of. I currently work with restaurants and restaurant groups, creating mostly videos. In this photo, I'm doing a video.
Okay.
Um, um, for restaurants, and then I do the posting and the growth and some mix of PR and all that. As much as and that's what I do for work. But I worked at magazines. I worked at Martha Stewart. I worked at the Food Network. I ended up at a magazine and became a photographer over time while I was there because I also wanted to, in addition, first I was a cook. I became a private chef for a family, and
Nice.
the wife had married into this family, and she was a journalist. She is a journalist. Her name is Brooke, and I consider her and Mr. Gorin, her husband, to be my mentors and like some of the most important people in my life. And they got me a job with, or they introduced me to a friend, Molly O'Neill, who's a New York Times food writer in '99. Ended up getting a job with her. Looking back on it, I think I was probably just hired 100% because Brooke said hire Todd.
I mean,
which is fine. But at the time I thought, because there was an interview and I was cooking. So anyway, yeah, I've done, I entered into media through like recipe development, and then I pushed to become also a writer because people were always like, "You're a cook, you're not a writer. You're a writer, you're not a cook." And wait a second. I thought I was. How am I all of a sudden not a cook? I've been a chef instructor at a culinary school. I've done for the subway system here. I used to do food eating tours on different train lines. I mean, on and on and on and on. And so basically, I take all of that now and I do it for social media because I'm a huge proponent of it personally and professionally, as we've talked about. And so this is the work that I'm actually doing. All the drives that I have here, they're full of that. The videos, especially videos these days, reels. And so because I come from the kitchen and I love that culture, and I'm 53 now, so I've been doing it the whole time. Some food related jobs since I was 15, the entire time. I never went to college. Everyone in my family, my brother has 3 master's degrees. I didn't go to college. I eventually went to culinary school later on, which was also great. But this is how I got into photography. And we were talking about India earlier. My first trip to India in 2004 was not to photograph. I was not a photographer. I didn't consider myself a photographer. I was there to experience the culture and the food and the country, But now when I go there, yes, I mean, food is very important, but I'm there primarily on my trips now. I'm primarily the photograph, but what I'm mostly photographing is food. So that's how I got into photography. The first photos I used to take, actually moving it to window light, is what I used to do with food, as I was taught to do. As I was taught to do. I was not. I mean, that's been the undercurrent. So my stuff on my Instagram, I don't. The stuff that I create for the restaurants, for my clients, as you might say, is all goes on their pages. I don't have a page or anywhere where I publish this stuff that I'm doing mainly. That's why I kind of consider it never seen. So if somebody who might not really know me, but maybe we follow each other and maybe they'd know this image that we looked at with the ladies from Oaxaca, they wouldn't know that. And I told you, why did I go there on that trip? Because of my friend Susanna at a cooking school, who I know her through the food business. Less and less and less. I mean, I'm really more focused on restaurants. I used to, I would report on home kitchens, home cooking, but so that's why I love to be, in people's homes.
Excellent. Well, Todd, I appreciate you sharing these images, and it's been great to have an insight into your mind, really, and your experience as not just a photographer, but as a human, as a professional. It's genuinely been a wonderful conversation. Before I let you go, is there anything? I'm going to leave links to where people can find you in the description. But if there's anything you want to share or anything like that, then you are welcome to do so now.
No, I think that's it. I'm sure I've
Perfect.
said enough. I've said enough.
No, it's been great, man. Well, okay. Well, I will love you and leave you there. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed that episode just as much as I enjoyed having the chat with Todd. Please do go and support him. I've left links down to his socials down in the description. And yeah, if you're liking the podcast, let me know down in the comments. Let me know any guests that you'd like to see. And also do like and subscribe to the channel and tap that bell icon so YouTube notifies you when I next publish. Until the next one, I'm Dan. This is Them Frames That Make Us. See ya.